Welcome back to the Hirewell Hot Corner, where sports and recruitment meet. I am your host, Gans Patel, once again joined by my co-host, Louie Marisi. Louie, good to see you again. Let's jump right in. What's going on in your world and the world of sports today?
Well, back to normal. The Bears lose, the Steelers lose. They don't look good. So pretty much status quo. I know as a Bears fan, we had 2 wins out of our first 3 games, which no one expected. We lost a game to the Giants where we didn't score a touchdown. Our kicker ended up getting all 12 points for us. So yeah, back to being a Bears fan, status quo. But
Yeah, you say, back to normal. Normal's not losing for the Steelers. It's a new era. It's a rebuild maybe, but it is officially the Kenny Pickett era. So there's some hope involved in losing to the Jets on a last second drive.
can't lie to you, that definitely sucks, especially after Kenny showed a lot of grit, especially getting thrown in. I heard he was not very well prepared as far as doing first team reps in practice, not from his standpoint, but just not getting those snaps in. But 3 interceptions. I looked at all of them. All 3 interceptions were not his fault. One was like a final play. A couple of them hit his receiver's hands. Those aren't his fault. And then he runs for 2 touchdowns on top of it. I mean, what else can you ask for? I mean, yeah, a win would have been nice, but a great first showing from your boy.
Gave the fans and the rest of the team some hope for sure.
Yeah, I mean, if he can pan out with the receivers, the running back, the tight end that you guys have, I mean, your offense could be high powered, and he has the arm to hit Claypool down, deep. He has Deontay Johnson, he has Freiermuth, he has Najee. Like, that's a good supporting cast.
We'll say the Steelers draft have hit really well in the last few years. Hopefully they can kind of bring it all together.
I would agree. And that kind of segues into today, our show. I know last week we talked a lot about incentive-based roles, which does tend to fall in my world, the sales side of things. We're going to dive more into the managed on-demand recruiting model today, which is your neck of the woods. And kind of to relate that to sports is, team needs versus company needs, have a lot of similarities. So, I'll kind of turn it over to you, let people know what is managed and on-demand recruiting.
Absolutely. So managed and on-demand recruiting are just a couple different offerings that Hirewell offers to our clients, to these companies, in order to help them grow and bring on top tier talent. The 2 different offerings are a little different. On-demand, which is where I more so specialize in, is a shorter contract-based type of role, typically 3 to 6 months. And what we get to do is jump into this company in essentially a full-time capacity. We have full access to their applicant tracking systems, to their emails, basically become an internal piece of their team. And they sign these contracts for a number of different reasons. Maybe they're going through a significant hiring spike. My current client is looking to grow mainly in the US and Canada. And so they actually don't have a recruitment team specifically. And so this was their way of making that growth. Other companies are looking to build a recruitment team for the first time. Maybe they need some help building the groundwork, creating some processes, and improving how they do things now. The other side of that is managed recruitment. Managed recruitment's a little different, wherein maybe there's a couple key hires that a company needs to make. There's potentially a longer term plan down the road, 12 months, 18 months, as they forecast the growth, but there's a few key pieces needed here or there. That for us is more of an account management type of position, where we help guide them through those processes and make those certain key hires piece by piece. That is more so on a retained rate with a fee that we charge per hire, while our on-demand recruitment is actually flat rate monthly fees. So whether we hire 1 person or 20, they're paying the same amount each month for our services.
Nice. I mean, 2 models, and it's very clear to see, what model fits what type of client, what they're looking for. Now, our show, it's about recruiting, but make it sports. So
Sure.
what does that mean to the sports world?
Yeah. So just like every business or company, what's the goal of a sports team? Is to be successful. And so achieving that success is very similar. It does come down to the personnel you're putting in, whether it be on the field or off the field in your front office. Your goal is to put together the right mix of people and talent that is going to further your company, further your team. Now, there's a couple different ways that companies or sports teams can do that. From a sports perspective, maybe it's through free agency. Maybe it's through the draft. Maybe it's through trades. Some teams like to do it differently. I know for my Pittsburgh Pirates, they're more of a draft scout and hope and prey on young talent before they have to pay them too much. And so far that's panned out once in the last 10 years. Meanwhile, teams like the Dodgers or Yankees have a little more money to work with. They can pay these big name guys to come over in trades and free agency. That's how they build their championship caliber teams. From a corporate standpoint, there's also a couple different ways that companies can grow and find the right talent. There are internal recruitment teams. Typically, as a company gets a little larger, they'll bring in people full time. If a company is smaller or they found success other ways, they could also bring on agency recruiters, similar to what we do, whether that be on the contingent basis, sort of what you do with sales professionals, Louie, or the Managed or OnDemand systems. And there's also just stuff they can do internally, referral programs, word of mouth, networking, and posting on job boards and whatnot. So both scenarios, there's not a perfect solution though, and every company's different.
Agreed. I mean, the standard right now in my world for the Bears, the Cubs, the Blackhawks is building. None of our teams are at a point where they're contenders. They're all kind of in that rebuild mode. And it's similar to companies. It's about assessing their needs, understanding where they need to make impacts, whether it's upgrading talent, whether it's hiring people into brand new roles to take on some initiatives and future plans. But it's one thing, and it really does come back on self-reflection and understanding where you want to take a company or a team and what's the best way to address that.
Absolutely. Like I said, no two companies, no two teams are going to be the same. And just a matter of figuring out what works, what doesn't. There's solutions for everything out there.
Yeah. So what are some of your recommendations for taking the steps towards progress, towards building a team?
Sure. So from a corporate standpoint, first step is assess what you already have. The first part of any good project is seeing what's already there, what has worked, what hasn't. Look at the team you're currently running with, look at the processes that you utilize, and look at where you plan on being. A lot of this is, dependent on where you're going to grow as a company and what you're looking to achieve. Once you've identified the goals and you've recognized where you are currently, it's about addressing key shortcomings mainly. If you don't have the right personnel in place to hire the talent, you're not going to bring in the talent to get the company to that next step. If you don't have the right salespeople to get the product in front of and sell enough to your clients, there's a major shortcoming there. If your problem stems from marketing, we'll say, easy solution there. If you're finding that with a process improvement or a project-based opportunity, just about honing in on those key pieces and saying this is where we need to get better. Once you figure out where you need to get better and you see what you're missing in terms of how to get from point A to point B, it's finding the solution that is right for you, whether that be hiring another recruiter for your recruitment team internally, whether that be posting on Indeed and sponsoring ads on LinkedIn, whether that be bringing in an outside resource like Hirewell to help you achieve those goals. It's just figuring out what works for you and then being willing to commit to it is a really big thing. A lot of times companies will say, oh, we need to do this, we need to do this, we need to do this, kick it down the road. 3 months later, you still haven't done it. And you're trying to grow by, we'll say next year, end of quarter, depends on what it is. At some point, you got to commit or quit.
Totally understandable. And it's kind of that domino effect. You start with, assessing. And once you assess, then you take it to the next step, which is how do we put this plan into place and then executing it. And you make one hire, then you make two, and ultimately, you're reaching towards an end goal. So end goal in mind, why don't we go to our first segment? I know we didn't have it on the first one, but it's called the 2-minute drill. So kind of final thoughts, take us home.
Sure. I'll reiterate it a million times. Everyone's different. There's no magic plan that works for everyone. It's all about finding the right balance and mix that's going to work for your company specifically. No one of these solutions by itself is going to net you everything. Even when you bring in an internal team or an outside consultant, we still have to utilize additional vehicles, additional channels, avenues in order to find the right candidates and bring in the top talent. Figuring out what works for you and how to kind of mesh together a grand plan is going to be the best solution. Hirewell, from our standpoint, we offer a lot of different options between our retained managed programs, our on-demand programs, having teams in all of our different major practices. We tend to tailor the experience as best we can to our clients and base it off of the needs of the company at that time. While the programs we offer might not be for everyone, many have tried and we've had a lot of success with those who have.
Totally. And just to kind of stem on that with my final thoughts, granted, this has been designed for the managed recruiting space, but it's about finding that building piece. We look at it from a company standpoint, we look at it from a sports standpoint, and it's finding that one person that makes the engine go. In your world, we're thinking it's Kenny Pickett for the Steelers. In my world, I would love it to be Justin Fields. From a recruiting standpoint, it's assessing that first need, that first building piece, and who brings that stability for the long term, and going from there. I think that's arguably one of the biggest parts of building a successful team, is having someone to rely upon, and going from there.
Couldn't agree more. Appreciate the insight as always. Well, everyone, on behalf of Louie and myself, thank you for tuning into the Hirewell Hot Corner. Join us again in 2 weeks for our next show. And as always, stay classy, LinkedIn.